There were a couple of events in Randy Moss's life that almost kept the world from knowing his name and the NFL from seeing one of the best wide receivers of all time. From being forced to transfer twice in college to even having to serve jail time, today we will dive into Moss's football journey at each major stage to answer the overarching question of just how good was Randy Moss. Randy Moss was born on February 13, 1977, in Rand, West Virginia, to Randy Pratt and Maxine Moss. Randy was not around to raise his child and left Maxine as a single mother of 3 children. She worked as a nurse's aide and was devoted to religion. Watching his mother struggle as he grew up led Moss to see football as a way that he could support her and a future family of his own. When Randy got to high school, his undeniable talent on the field and issues off of the field would begin to arise. Moss would attend Riverside High School, where he would play football, basketball, baseball, and track. Along with this, he would also participate on the school's debate team. In football, he played wide receiver, free safety, and also returned kicks. He would be a main contributor to the school's back-to-back state titles. In 1994, he would earn the honor of being named as the West Virginia Football Player of the Year. However, football would not be the only sport that Moss would earn Player of the Year honors in. He would also be named the West Virginia Player of the Year twice in basketball. However, his athletic feats would quickly become overshadowed by an incident that would leave him with a jail sentence. Moss's high school ran rampant with racism that even a world-class athlete like himself was not exempt from. In an act of retaliation, Moss aided his friend in a hallway fight after a white student hurled a racial slur their way. The fight would leave the white student in the hospital, and Randy was charged with 2 counts of misdemeanor battery. Despite being forced to serve time in jail, Moss's talent on the field would still make him a highly touted recruit before more off-field issues would lead to him losing a golden opportunity. Before the incident, Moss was set to attend Notre Dame. However, they revoked their offer after learning about the fight. However, he would still end up at a very good program in Florida State. Despite receiving a second chance, things would get worse for Moss after it was found that he had broken his probation due to testing positive for marijuana. He would quickly be let go from Florida State, and he was forced to transfer to Marshall. At the time, Marshall was not even a true Division I program, but a Division I AA school. With Moss receiving his last chance at Marshall, he would go on to prove why so many teams were still willing to give him a shot despite his off-the-field issues. Randy would spend 2 seasons at Marshall, in that time setting the Division I AA records for most games with a touchdown catch, most consecutive games with a touchdown catch, most receptions in a season, most single-season receiving yards by a freshman, and tied Jerry Rice's record for most single-season touchdown receptions. He would end his collegiate career with 174 receptions for 3,529 yards and 54 touchdowns. After proving himself as arguably the best wide receiver in Division I AA history, Moss was finally back on the radar of NFL scouts and ready to make the jump to the league. Moss would turn heads at the combine. He ran the 40-yard dash in 4.38 seconds, reaching a top speed of 18.68 miles per hour. This is an incredible time for almost any receiver, let alone one that stands at 6'4". Along with this great 40 time, Moss also had a vertical leap of 33 inches, a 20-yard shuttle time of 4.17 seconds, and a 3-cone time of 7.19 seconds. With nothing else to prove and everything left in the hands of the 32 scouting teams around the league, all Moss could do was wait to hear his name called on draft night. The 1998 NFL Draft was an incredible class, including future Hall of Famers like Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Alan Faneca, and Randy Moss. Moss would not have to wait long to hear his name called, with the Minnesota Vikings selecting him with the 21st overall pick. It did not take long for Moss to make many of the teams around the league regret not using their first-round pick on him. Moss likely could not have handpicked a better situation for himself to enter the NFL than the one that awaited him with the Minnesota Vikings. They had an elite quarterback in Randall Cunningham to throw to him, and Hall of Fame wide receiver Chris Carter there to mentor him. In his rookie season, Moss would light the league ablaze with 69 receptions for 1,313 yards and a league-high 17 receiving touchdowns. He would be named the Offensive Rookie of the Year, finished third in MVP voting, third in the Offensive Player of the Year voting, made the All-Pro First Team, and received a Pro Bowl nod as well. He would continue to thrive in Minnesota for the following 6 seasons, where he would earn 4 more Pro Bowl appearances and 2 more All-Pro First Team selections. In the offseason, leading up to the 2005 season, Moss would be traded for the first time in his career. The deal sent him to the Oakland Raiders for Napoleon Harris, the 7th overall pick in the 2005 draft, and another draft pick. Moss was one of the very few bright spots on this Raiders offense. Due to the lack of talent around him, the team would not make the playoffs in either of his 2 seasons there. After his 2-year stint with the Raiders, Moss would once again be on the move, this time to the New England Patriots in exchange for a 4th-round pick. In his first year in New England, Moss would arguably have the best single-season performance from a wide receiver in NFL history. With Tom Brady as his quarterback, Moss would haul in 98 passes for 1,493 yards and 23 touchdowns. This set the single-season receiving touchdowns record that still stands today. Jerry Rice is the only other receiver in history to even crack 20 touchdowns in a single season. Moss and the Patriots would finish the season with an undefeated record and a chance at history in becoming the only team in NFL history to have an undefeated year since the league switched to a 16-game regular season. However, they fell just 1 game short of a perfect season and were upset by the New York Giants in the Super Bowl by a final score of 14-17. Despite this being a low-scoring game, Moss would still have a solid performance, making 5 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. However, it would not be enough to win the first Super Bowl of his career. While the Patriots would have a solid final 2 seasons with Moss on the roster, they would not be able to get back to the level they achieved in the 2007 season. After a slow start to the 2010 season, Moss would once again be traded, this time back to the Minnesota Vikings for a 4th-round pick. However, his homecoming would be cut short. After just 4 games with the Vikings, Moss would be waived from the team, but would quickly be picked up by the Tennessee Titans. After the 2010 season, Moss would retire from the league, causing him to miss the entirety of the 2011 season. However, he would make a 1-year return to the game at the age of 35 with the San Francisco 49ers. While Moss would only start in 2 games, he would prove that he still had what it took to be on the NFL roster. He finished the season with 50 catches for 434 yards and 3 touchdowns. The 49ers would make it to the Super Bowl, where they would take on the Baltimore Ravens in Moss's last game in the league. Once again, his team would lose the title game in disappointing fashion, this time by a final score of 31-34. He would pull in 2 of his 5 targets for 41 yards. Moss would end his career totaling 982 catches, 15,292 yards, and 156 touchdowns. He was named to the Pro Bowl 6 times, the All-Pro Team 4 times, won the 1998 Offensive Rookie of the Year award, the 2007 Comeback Player of the Year award, made the Hall of Fame All-2000s team, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018. He currently ranks 15th all-time in career receptions, 4th in receiving yards, 2nd in receiving touchdowns, 28th in receiving yards per game, and 17th in yards from scrimmage. With his playing days behind him, Moss would find a new purpose quickly after retiring. After retirement, Moss would work as an analyst for both Fox Sports and ESPN. Now it's time to finally answer the question of how good was Randy Moss actually? Randy Moss is one of, if not the best wide receiver of all time. While he does not quite have the stats that players like Jerry Rice does, it would be hard to pick between who would give you a better stat line in any given game. His 2007 season with the Patriots is one that likely will never be replicated, and his unique skill set is one that wide receivers for decades will only be able to wish to emulate.